Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the 60th of hopefully many episodes of bardadvice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd adjacent podcast where we discuss things, and I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any questions that you might submit. Speaking of which, at the top of the show, we like to remind everyone to please send all questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, queries, critiques, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. Even if you don't have a question, if you just want to tell a story or you have a follow-up for a question that you asked prior or someone else asked prior, send us that info, bardadvice@gmail.com. If you'd like to get merchandise, you can do so over at manshorts.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically or otherwise, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. I hope that everybody is doing well. Hello, everyone, all of the regulars. Thank you for joining us again. We also, at the top of the hour, like to thank all of our patrons, members, super chatters. Remind everybody to please like the video. If you're watching, please like it. Comment, subscribe, share, turn on notifications, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. It's much appreciated. All of those types of engagements are greatly helpful for the old algorithm and just spreading our content out in general. So, how's everybody doing? Had a good week? It's Friday. Something to be happy about. Oh. Oh no. I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if I'm live or not. Am I live? Where did my little thing go? I guess I am. Okay. I'm just unable to see anything. So if I'm live, that's fine. I could just use the chat on here. So, wow, that was really bizarre. Can't see anything on my screen now, but that's okay. We'll just power through. So, Art Corner this week. There's a few things that I wanted to recommend everybody to check out. The first of which is this show that my wife and I just got done watching on Netflix called The Tourist. And the only way that I can describe it, the only thing that I can liken it to, is a show that has existed before, which is, or rather a show that we watched before a few years ago called Clickbait, where it's just, I just recommend that you check it out. It's about this guy who's in Australia and he has no memory of who he is or what he's doing. He has like complete amnesia. And so then there's all these characters around him and drama unfolds, and it's really interesting. The next season is going to be coming in the next week or two. There are moments that are really good, and then there are moments that I hate. There are characters that are good, and then characters that I really hate. And there are tons of moments where I'm like confused. And not in a good way, not in a like, oh, thrilling, like a what is this? There's a lot of like goofy dialogue choices. I don't know. Maybe it's self-aware. It was enjoyable enough, I guess, for me to finish, and so I'll be watching the second season. So I recommend that to anybody who has Netflix if you're looking for something to watch and you haven't already seen it. Also, on that note, just a reminder for everybody to check out the first episode of D20 Debates if you haven't already. It's on the Mann Shorts channel here, and the second episode of that will be airing this Sunday. But go check out, for now, if you haven't already, the Barbarian versus Bard first episode of D20 Debates, a debate show where Jay and I just kind of argue about all things D&D TTRPG. And before I forget, just a reminder to everyone that Mann Shorts now has a TikTok. So on the TikTok app, if you use it or are on it, and you go to Mann Shorts Clips, that's our Mann Shorts channel on TikTok. I'm going to begin posting shorts there. I already have, and I plan on doing more and more of those if and when is possible, as often as possible. Because, you know, we're in the world of shorts now, so that's what it is. And I won't I won't be able to tell who. I'm not going to say who won. That'll be revealed on tomorrow's episode. But I will say that it was a pretty heavy-handed victory in the favor of the winner. So, another thing really quickly before we get into questions, which we've got a good amount of this evening, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are going to be doing the release of the dice with Kraken next week. People in the Discord have already seen, but check it out. This is the first of 4 sets that we'll be releasing over the course of the next few months. But this is the Man Shorts Part 2 set. And as you can see here, they are pretty cool looking, and they also glow in the dark. So those will be available on the 22nd. I have not, unfortunately, confirmed with Kraken on the actual time for the release, but I think that we're shooting for like 8 p.m. Eastern. I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get the dice if they want them. And keep in mind that these dice will be releasing, from what I understand, they'll be releasing every 2 weeks. So we'll have these on the 22nd, and then the rest will follow. I got to double check on what the actual schedule for that stuff is, but I'm going to be posting all of that stuff on our socials and stuff as to when they're going to be released as some level of marketing. So finally the dice are in, so that'll be great. All right, so let's move on. We've got questions this evening that I'd like to get to. I've been thrown off a little bit because I'm not actually able to look at the streaming area in YouTube for some reason. But that's fine. We can keep going. So this first question is from Tabby. And Tabby asks, "Hey, Yazzik, just curious if you've seen the trailer for Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. If so, what are your thoughts? Personally, I'm hopeful. After the live-action One Piece, my faith in Netflix's ability to produce good anime adaptations has been slightly restored." Well, thank you for the question. I had seen the trailer, and then actually when I got your question, I rewatched the trailer. I think it looks cool. I think it looks like it's going to be good. I tend to agree with your feeling as to having a little more hope in their ability to create a good adaptation after the live-action One Piece. I think that I wrote some notes on this. So I think that we've had a major turning point in media and content creation in the last like 5 to 6 years. Like, obviously, I think TikTok has shortened a lot of people's attention spans, and the old Hollywood way of doing things is still, it's ever present, like in Hollywood itself, but the idea is kind of dead, right? Like, independent filmmakers have a better opportunity for a large platform now than ever before. And a lot of the gatekeepers are kind of gone because, like, with digital cameras, and then of course, like, a lot of the new AI stuff that's available. And so I think that Netflix does a really good job of betting on people, right? Like, they do it with comics a lot, where they're just like, we're going to just give you a special. And so I think that they've started to do that, and maybe bet on them even more so, because I think that a big part of why the One Piece adaptation was so good was because Oda was so heavily involved, the creator of the manga. So, I hope that his involvement with that will encourage others to get more involved with production. Now, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Avatar. I'm not the biggest Avatar fan, and it's been a while since I saw it. But from what I could see in the trailer, it looks good. And I don't know if somebody that's one of I don't know how many people that were creators are involved in its production. But yeah, I'm hopeful as well. I think that it looks cool, and I think that now One Piece, at a minimum, I think has given Netflix a little bit of breathing room from all of the, because to be fair, they've created some crap, and so I think that they're aware of that, and then maybe they can just lean into the success of One Piece. Hopefully, Avatar will be good, and then they can keep going from there. Show's creators parted from production due to creative difference. I've heard they're changing both Aang and Sokka's personalities. Aang is going to be serious instead of goofy, and Sokka isn't supposed to mature. He already is there. Aang being serious instead of goofy seems to kind of defeat the purpose of a lot of the idea, right? Because that's, I think, the big appeal with Luffy. That's why everybody loves Luffy, because he's goofy. He's fun. And in spite of being so strong and powerful, he's still just like a regular dude. People like that. I don't know if it's a good idea to make him less serious, or rather make him more serious and less goofy, but I don't know. We'll see how it plays. I'm sure that people are going to have their opinions about it one way or another, but all I know is I really liked the One Piece live action, and I'm really looking forward to more of that. Changing and removing character arcs. Well, I will say, as I said, I'm not the biggest Avatar fan, so I can't be too upset about it. We'll just have to see how it goes. Thank you for the question, Tabby. Moving on, we've got, so as in total, we've got 6 questions and then a follow-up, and then I thought that we could do some chat. So the next question is from Miles. And Miles asks, "Hi, Chaz. Not sure if you saw Wizards of the Coast plans for 2024, but apparently we can expect 6 new books, gaming events, and brand collabs with Lego, Converse, and Pop-Tarts. As the game gets more popular, do you think older fans may lose interest or stop playing entirely? Ever since the OGL stuff last year, I found myself spending less time behind the DM screen and more time playing video/board games. Thank you." Well, thank you for the question, Miles. I will say that I don't think that, first of all, yes, I think that as it gets more ingrained into the zeitgeist and more ever present, then there will probably be some drop off with some people, because, and I get that, like I've always been somebody that's been a little counterculture, and so it's tough when like something that you liked that was kind of under the radar, or at least like not all that common, becomes really, really popular and everybody's doing it. But people that love the game are going to continue to play the game regardless. And what I'll say too, like when it comes to editions, as somebody who has spent a lot of his career in the D&D space complaining about 5e and complaining, hoping for more of a 3.5 vibe. 3.5 still exists. It's still there. I can pick it up and play it whenever I want to. So I do agree that like since OGL stuff's been kind of weird, but like I think D&D as a property is kind of on the way out. Like at least as the quote unquote name brand of whatever it is, because with the rise of third-party publishers, its uniqueness is waning. I mean, you could argue that it's kind of already gone. And if you couple that with the recent decisions by Hasbro and WotC to, they seem to have kind of doubled and tripled down on their attitude of like, listen, this is just profit's the most important thing, which, it's a corporation, but they've made it clear that profit comes first, and that, I think it might end up biting them, because like similar to production, like I was just talking about, like when you're generating stuff, it's like, I feel like years ago people could get away with stuff when it came to Hollywood, because it was like there were, a camera cost $500,000. But, now an average person can get a digital camera and has access to the internet and now has AI to do a lot of the production stuff. I'll be honest, I've been using this program to create clips because it's so easy. You just give it the data and then it cuts everything down into clips and captions it, and it just makes it so easy. I did it myself manually, and it took like an hour to do a clip in the full way that I wanted to do it, versus like, 10 or 15 minutes in this thing that's just running in the background. It's tools. So yeah, between like VR and stuff, I think that people are always going to play D&D as it was. And then I don't think that people are going to need to rely so much on WotC or Hasbro. There's already been proof of that this last year. Is the OGL fiasco just the straw that broke the camel's back? Or did they go from having every intention on continuing their D&D gameplay to not wanting to play just because of the OGL? Possibly. I'm sure that the OGL stuff pissed a lot of people off. But remember, people were already mad with them about Magic stuff. And then, of course, there was also the debacle where they released the Giants book, and there was the AI art, and then the WotC totally threw the artist under the bus. It's like, oh, we had no idea. And then, of course, if you talk to the artists, they're just like, listen, it's just a tool. It isn't any different than like anything else. Like, you know, nobody gets upset about people using Photoshop in like before this. That's the thing that bugs me about AI art, is that it's like, oh, well, it's like, dude, do you know how many processes are automated? You wouldn't probably, if you're not an editor, if you're not somebody that spends times in these programs, you wouldn't realize that, like, we already have tools that automate tons of stuff. We already have things that, you know, we do now just with the click of a button that 10 years ago would have taken an hour. So I think that people are going to need to rely less on the name brand of Dungeons and Dragons. And I think we're already seeing that. I'm all in on Matt Koval's MCDM TTRPG. Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't really looked much into that, but I should. Because, you know, I think that power to the players, which is what I think Gygax's initial intent was in the first place. TSR, I think that was the, you know, by the way, that's why the OGL existed in the first place. Right? And so the fact that Hasbro has kind of just like doubled down on like, no. And that, you know, they've gone around, they took the long way around, because then, you know, they made people feel like, oh, you know what, guys, we blew it. Don't worry. We're going to retain this. And it's like, yeah, but like probably not moving forward. And then also now they've coupled with this studio to make VR D&D, which I'm not against, but it's like, okay, well then there's already an issue with y'all not publishing enough books, publishing enough content. I mean, at least in my opinion. 6 books a year. I don't know how much, I don't know with what frequency they were published back in 2003, 2004, but I feel like it was more than that. It certainly felt like more than that. So, you know, it's also possible that I just caught the tail end of that wave and there were already a tons of books out. But I don't know, man. I bet if you looked at the history of the release dates, there was a bunch of stuff that dropped in 03, 04. So, yeah, so do I see... Sorry, let me get the question again. Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody's going to stop playing entirely, they already have. I don't know that there's going to be anything that is going to cause them to quit at this point, other than just kind of dropping off and then maybe, you know, looking into other options for TTRPGs, some third-party stuff, because there's tons of it. All right. Moving on. Thank you for the question, Miles. Moving on to, we've got a 3-slate question here from Rich. And I took a little bit of license with this as far as some changes there, but I think I got most of it. So let's get into it. I have a question for you in chat about the mechanics I use. First, I have everyone roll initiative, including me, at the start of a session. We keep this order through the session unless a PC is unable, i.e. ill, asleep, or dead. Then the next highest takes over. Note, we also re-roll initiative after an encounter or long rest. This keeps the game flowing and keeps them on their toes, not knowing what I'll throw at them. I have maps of continents in my world, and my PCs tell me where they want to go. I then roll 3 dice to determine weather, encounter, and atmosphere. If there is no encounter, I narrate the journey. I also have trigger events to keep it fresh. When they hit a trigger, it starts an event. Then I jot down a note in the lore books. I keep one for each of the 6 continents. This lets me run one-shots in other places, gain more NPCs, and build lore. I was wondering if anyone does this in their games, or am I just a glutton for punishment? Keep up the amazing work you're doing and take a little for you breaks along the way. Also, the new album is fire. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you very much, Rich. So I think all of that stuff is super cool. I don't know if I would get that in depth, but one of the things I would say, well, I don't know, I probably would. One of the things I would say is that this is a great example of allowing the foundation of your like world building to serve as a great tool mechanically for randomness, because you can use tables, right? But part of the why this works, like I think this stuff's really cool, first of all, Rich, but part of why it works is that you have the foundation in the world as to, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you have a lot of questions already answered, which allows for more questions, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. But it sounds like a heck of a lot of work. But it's, yeah, for sure. It's a lot of work, but I'm sure it's really rewarding because even for you as the DM, there's a level of randomness to like, oh, well, what's going to happen? And that's the coolest way for it to be. You know, when you're doing something like a one-shot, or even to an extent when you're doing like a homebrew campaign, there's a kind of an objective that you go on, and the world is not so deep, right? Like if you just picked up like a one shot and we're going through it, even with the homebrew building, it's kind of being built specifically around that. But in your case where you already have an existing world, see, this is a cool thing because I think that like, man, I think that like DMs should like, that's why like I'm so happy to have like World Anvil as a sponsor over the years. Like they're so cool because like, you create the world and then the world just exists and you can kind of apply it or plug it into any system. That's the best way to do things. It helps keep track of literally everything, and you can use it later to maybe publish a book if you choose. That's true. Let's see. It's because only thing I can say, if you're going to hold initiative over time, then make the beginning of the combat initiative phase set the turn order to the next combat or long rest. That's interesting. Initiative, we used to just go clockwise around the table. Yeah, initiative... The thing that's funny about initiative is that it's like you would imagine that the reason that it exists in the first place is because it's like, oh, well, you know, this is going to determine what your planning is. But to be honest, there's not a whole lot of planning in D&D to begin with, I think, for most of us. Certainly not in the case of Rich and what we just went through. There's clearly a lot of planning behind that. But I'm saying just like, if you're just messing around and having fun, there's not necessarily a whole lot of planning. And so it's like, other than just like, you know, making it a random arrangement of planning, I don't see the benefit to it as much as it's just a thing that I've kind of done just because that's what it is. I mean, I guess it's like, yeah, you keep track of the order of everything, but if really that was the case, then you would, to Ron's point, just go clockwise around the corner, around the table. Too much micromanagement will often take away from the fun, sometimes just flying by the seat of the pants. Yeah, but I think that this world has allowed for flying by the seat of the pants, just in the sense of the randomness to it. Get to keep track without a lot of prep. Hides his over-planning self from the initiative conversation. Oh, no. You know, over-planner? I think that there's always going to be, depending on what your experience is and what your opinions are, somebody that's considered an over-planner or an under-planner. I think like in the D20 debate episodes, we shot 2 of them. And as I said, the next one will be this Sunday, which is melee versus ranged, by the way. Just as a little teaser to everybody who will see that before it airs. But, or maybe we talked about it in the first episode, I don't remember. But that was the thing with that, is that I feel like I kind of over-prepared, and Jay maybe a little under-prepared. Not in the sense that he didn't know what was going on. It's just that, like, I think that I kind of maybe over-explained or over-prepared prepared with my like speeches and stuff. So really enjoy the D&D videos. Oh yeah, thank you. It's a total sandbox. Yeah, that's, I think, what creates the best situation. Cinderblock Sally and bardadvice. Where do I know that name? Cinderblock Sally. Is that guy on TikTok? You can't just go clockwise around the table. You roll initiative to force your players to make the on-the-spot decision that will affect the course of the game. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it depends, too, on what the actual encounter is. But I think that stuff's cool. I'm sure that some people would find that it was too much, but, you know, everybody's a little different. And for those of us who are less concerned, it's great that there are people like you that exist that create this really in-depth foundation and make it fun for everybody. Because, you know, I'm the kind of person that's just like, yeah, let's do whatever. And so I would love a world like that, because it's just kind of like, you know, it makes it feel like Minecraft in the sense of being like procedurally generated. So, is that what it is? Is that what that means? Somebody fact check those words. I don't know if that's what those words mean. I don't know if that word means what you think that word means. If you go clockwise around the table, just get up and switch seats to the party's advantage. True. Maybe just sit there like that the whole time. Just want to say thanks for the awesome videos that really help keep you going. Oh, well, you're awesome. Thank you very much. Say your healer rolls the highest int, he goes first, and the other party members who go after him all fail saving throws after getting knocked out. Who does the healer save? Oh, yeah, true. Would it be less likely to get derailed? Maybe. Not necessarily. I think at the end of the day, individual player decisions is what gets things derailed off the most. Hey, what's happening, Kirk? You're not late if you're here. Even with my simple fighter planning and changing plans as each other participant's turn happens and alters the space. Turn order does make a difference. Our cleric likes to go last. Our bard likes to go first if the rogue doesn't snake past him. Yeah, and, you know, initiative does make a difference in the sense of, like, how combat goes. But I think you could do it however you want to. I think I like the idea of having a kind of a quote-unquote perma-initiative, because realistically speaking, like, if you're a rogue that has, like, a +5 to initiative, you're probably going to be the most prepared for combat anyway. So, yeah, maybe you kind of split the difference if you want to try that out at your table, DMs that are listening. I forget who it was that mentioned it, but maybe you do where you have that initial encounter / combat roll for initiative and then just kind of let that sit. But even at that point, like, if the initiative is set until you re-roll it in one of those things that you mentioned, or it changes by somebody being unavailable, the healer should save the others that can save others when conscious. Ah, yes. Use a D10 instead of a D20. That way those that should go first do. Oh, there you go. Campaign set around a Snowpiercer theme. Yeah, we did we did that on Train Edition as part of that thing. Man, we've just done so many. It's like, you name it, we did it. Want the healer support going last most often, for sure. Back to the Future 3, where we're going, we don't need roads. Most definitely. That's the case every week on this show, for sure. All right, well, thank you for the question, Rich, and all of the cool stuff. Anybody is, feel free to try and apply some of that stuff if and you wanna. Sounds cool to me. The next question. Oh, and you know what? I have a list of names I haven't even been reading from. The next question is from John. And John asks, hello, Mr. Bard. First time writing in, but I've been listening to the podcast from the start. I love the Man Shorts videos, and I think the D20 debate show is fun and entertaining. Oh, thank you. Can't wait for more of those. My question is, do you really think bards are better than barbarians, or did you just argue for the sake of the show? Well, thank you for the question, John. I will say that, It's difficult. It's a little complicated because I am technically by trade a bard. Technically. And so, but I also consider like what characters I like to play, and more importantly, like what characters I more often play. So my answer is IRL bard, in-game barbarian. I prefer to play barbarians, and I actually tend to agree with Jay's points about barbarians having good character development, because he did make good points in the sense of like, yeah, well, they're kind of the blank slate. Like, you could argue that a bard is part of what makes a bard is his character, is his uniqueness, even arguably his backstory. Whereas a barbarian, you can just start as just like, oh yeah, the barbarian's just like this one soldier guy, and then you can take him through this entire character developmental arc. So it was a trick question as Wizards overall. It's honestly, like, if I were pressed, my favorite class is probably a fighter. It's probably what I use the most. But you know, if I were forced to pick between a barbarian and a bard to play, it'd be a barbarian. But I do think that in real life, bard has an edge. So, how do you ask questions? Well, you can ask questions here in chat, or you can send them to bardadvice@gmail.com, our email here. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. But I encourage you to send them there, because those questions that you send there to bardadvice@gmail.com they become part of the show. So feel free to send them over, and maybe I'll have time to answer another question that you have, or a question that you have rather, in chat. But just to speak a little bit more on the whole bard barbarian situation, yeah, I do really believe I did, for the sake of the show, you know, and Jay and I kind of made the agreement with one another. We're like, look, this is how we're going to do this. Like, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that you could, you know, there is no really better thing, because it's all subjective, right? It all depends on what you like, what the party composition is, 100 different things. So it's kind of silly on the face of it to say, like, which is better, but that's kind of the whole bit, right? So Jay and I have kind of agreed to just like, look, we're going to pick a side, we're going to argue for our side, and that's just what it's going to be. But I recognize that it's way more nuanced than that. And so, you know, both classes are really credible. Both are really fun to play. And they're good for their own reasons. If the party is small, barbarian. If we've got 5 or more, definitely going with bar. Yeah, that's kind of my rule of thumb too, you know? Because like a barbarian, even if you're just like 2 people, it can hold his own. But like, depending on the edition that you're talking about, 3-5 bards are not as strong. You know, 5e bards, I think, are better off than 3-5. Neither bards or barbarians can cast fireball, no matter how large or small the room is. Oh, a bard could figure out a way. And, you know, what the barbarian would answer is that they could just, like, you know, pick up a... you could just pick up, like, a chimenea or something and throw it at somebody. I don't know why I thought of that as, like, I could have just said, like, a fire pit. Although, you know, how do you pick up a fire pit? If I played a barbarian who thinks he is a bard and doesn't realize he's terrible, would that be a barbarian? I don't know if that's what makes the barbarian. You got a multi-class for that, dude. Barbarian can survive said fireball. True. As long as you build its con right. A barrel of oil in a match is fireball. A real bard can seduce a fireball. Barbarians are the area of effect damage. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know why that made me think of... I don't know if anybody's played the finals yet on Steam, but when you're the heavy person, some of the clips that I've seen of that stuff is crazy, because if you're like, you have air and you can just come down and punch and just destroy an entire building. It's very barbarian stuff. Play a barbarian that flies into rage if people hate his music. 2-handed loot to the face for 2d4 plus 4 damage. Yeah, Fireball, well, as it typically does. Fireball's great. Oh, yeah. I don't know if anybody has seen the Baldur's Gate 3 finale, but it was the wrap up of our first campaign. We're starting our next one next Wednesday, but that's really funny because there's a lot of cool fireballs in there. So that's always fun. Hello, welcome, Natasha. Thank you for joining. Hope everybody out there is doing well, by the way. I had a pretty good week. It's gone by quickly. I'm actually kind of surprised that it's already Friday, really. But, you know, that's just how it goes. When heavy hits you hard... When heavy hits hard, you give that heavy a sandwich. Alrighty. So, we have got 2 more questions and a follow-up. And then we'll do some chat. And then hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to stop the stream because I'm off the regular screen that I'm off of. So, I'm off the regular screen that I'm on. So, not sure how to deal with that, but we're going to figure it out. All right. So the next question this evening is from Derek. And Derek asks, hey, everybody. So in last week's session, we were trying to sneak into a city and get a particular building and get to a particular building undetected. Unfortunately, we failed a roll, isn't that always how it goes, and found ourselves facing off with a couple of enemies. 2 of us cast Hypnotic Pattern, it's an interesting way I spelled cast, incapacitating the only guards around to see us, intending for the party to slip by and get to our destination. Oh, yeah. So we had this plan. Okay, let's see how this goes. The rogue and ranger, however, ran into the nearest building and started murdering people. That'd be me and Justin, for sure, 100%. Putting us into a battle where a mage was able to teleport away, alerting enemies to our exact location. What are some ways to avoid this kind of behavior, and how do you communicate with the other PCs or players on stuff like this? I don't like to break immersion and or metagame, but this really screwed up our plans. Okay, so the short answer is talking is a free action. So whether you're doing that in character or out of character, unless you're, you mentioned that you don't want to metagame. Obviously, if you're not within talking distance of another player, then they're not going to be able to hear you. But then my question would be, why are you not in talking distance? Did you split the party? Why did you split the party in the city? What are you doing? Trying to go to a building? What's the plan? Is there a plan? Sounds like there's not a plan. And so, expectations. Perhaps a pre-session meeting or conversation about what the plans or objectives are. I will say it's tough for me to give a real fair answer on this because, like I said, I would have been either the rogue or the ranger that was just like, hey, let's just go in here and just start a fight with somebody for no reason. But I'm also, that kind of stuff can sometimes develop the story very much. So anybody that's seen the We Play knows that, like, Verina's unhinged behavior, I think, ultimately led to a cooler ending because of just where it leads you. We were far enough apart that shouting out to the rogue would have alerted more enemies to our presence. So y'all weren't even supposed to be in the city at all. So maybe that, and I just was saying about not split the party. Maybe that's a scenario where just one person goes in. You got a spellcaster? You got to figure out a way to, like, get connectivity, get, like, telepathy going or something within the party. Mind link is what they call it, I think, in 3.5. Valentine's Day, my hubby gave me new interesting headphones. Yours is the first YouTube voice heard. Oh, cool, nice. Well, awesome. I'm honored to be the first voice you hear. Expect the outcast to be outcasting. I was the rogue unless the rogue decided he was going to try and sneak away from the ranger followed to try and stop him. Yeah, that's true. That can happen. Always expect the one yeah, most definitely, Avram. Telepathy, yeah. So that stuff's huge because there was a campaign that I played years and years ago where I was a Minotaur, and our wizard mind linked all of us, and then we were doing Fight in a Labyrinth, We were doing a fight in a labyrinth, which was excellent for me because a major oversight by Forever DM Posey, because Minotaurs can't get lost. So they put us in a, and it's like, oh, bet. Well, then the wizard will just mind link us, and then everybody knows everybody knows where to go because I know where to go, and you're all in my head. So next time, hypnotize the enemies, the rogue and the ranger. Yeah, hypnotic pattern is dope, by the way, too. Just a note on that. That proved to be very, very big deal in the end of the Wii play. Okay, so avoiding murder hobo behavior is kind of impossible. Is the note that I wrote down. I would say to encourage role play and feel free to discuss the issue in character, but it might be best to just have a conversation about it out of game. And to that point, like, maybe you approach it from a situation where it's like, hey guys, that didn't go well for us as a party, as opposed to like, hey, you guys shouldn't do that. You know, what are some ways that we can avoid doing this? And something like a mind link spell, or I don't know, just a way that you can communicate without having to worry about making noise. But I'm also the type of, like, you know, if we were in a situation where we needed to get somewhere, I might just very well send one person in there just to figure it out and then get back out. Because worst case scenario, they get got, then we can go in and like rescue them, you know? If you need to be stealthy and can't gain access to a mind linking spell, then see if your DM will give you earrings of message. Oh, interesting. A minotaur in its natural environment. Yeah, no doubt. It was so funny because he knew it as soon as the words left his mouth. Like, he was like, and he's like, to reveal a labyrinth. Oh God. Like, as soon as he said it, he was just, and like, we were all just like, what? You know, I'm a minotaur, right? It's great stuff. Speaking stones as well. Oh yeah, cool. Like work like cell phones or something. Don't mind Murderhoboing sometimes, but not all the time. Yeah, and you know, I think that there can be a middle ground there, where and make sure that the DM is involved in that conversation too. But there can be a middle ground there where, you know, you've got both people satisfied, because it's like, you know, maybe you let them. Maybe you kind of like turn the other way when they murder hobo a little bit, and then maybe they like try to murder hobo a little less. But you know, a lot of times it's just the nature of D&D, right? Like, as to your point, like with the question, it's like, you know, best intentions at the beginning, and you guys were kind of screwed up anyway. So the ranger and rogue were probably like, oh well, you know, if we're gonna, you know, and I know that because I'm that guy. I'm either the rogue or the ranger. I'm just like, oh man, well, they're going to find out that we're here anyway. Might as well just start killing them. Then it's like, oh, now we're in this room. Now we got to fight all these people. Now we've got an initiative of like 100 people. It's not going to be easy. All right. So, I think that there's an answer in there, though, between me and then other people in chat. Probably better from chat. Sending stones. Let's see. Find it hard to play moral or principal characters these days because it feels like every group I'm in wants to do the evil party shtick. I think it's more of just kind of like an outlet of just like, you know, it's like the idea of Westworld. That stuff's, I think, always going to be popular, where it's just like, well, wait a minute, there's no consequences. I mean, look at like GTA. But yeah, so there's a question about alignment that I think that Chris asked that I'm gonna address next week, but we'll see. I found newer, younger players used to single-player computer games, video games, tend to want to run off a murder hobo. Yeah, that could be a big part of it too, right? Just generationally, because when GTA 3 came out, I think I was in high school, and that game specifically revolutionized everything when it came to video games, because it was like the first game where you really didn't have to do the story to enjoy it. That you could just play it as a sandbox. And that, I think, over the years has kind of become the standard with RPGs, at least, for sure. So I can imagine growing up like that and then coming into the world, because, you know, I started playing D&D when I was like 18 or 19. So yeah, maybe that's just how the standard is murder hobo. But that could also be kind of a challenge on the end of the DM as to, because I feel like in the campaigns that we've played, in spite of us having kind of like murder hobo tendencies, we were technically the good guys. I think that we were technically the good guys. Well, I shouldn't say we, because I'm usually at least a couple characters, and they kind of range in their alignments as to what their incentives are. But like as a party, I think that we're the good guys in both the We Play and Airships of Nuada. So maybe check out those as good examples of, letting people still maintain their kind of murder hobo tendencies. Because, as the DM, you're the one that's in control. So you could totally set something up that makes them feel like, oh, yeah, we're just killing everybody. And then in reality, it's like, well, that doesn't really, you've got your foundations. Why you've got your foundational world going on behind the scenes. But yeah, definitely just chat about it, figure it out. And you've got some definitely options there for in the future, sending stones, earrings of message, mind link. Alrighty, so we've got one more question, and then we've got a follow-up, and then we'll do a little chat. And this last question is from Chris, because we couldn't do one without it. And Chris asks, is there anything the viewers or listeners can do to help out in terms of liking, sharing, or something more direct? Thank you for this question, Chris, because not only is it good, is it a good question, but it's also something that I need to talk more about in general and just remind people of things to do. I try to do it up at like the top of the top of the hour and at the end of the show, but yeah, liking, sharing on the bardadvice. On this specifically, on this show, I think it's just a matter of like telling people, because I think word of mouth is truly like a really powerful form of marketing, even where we are with the internet. Just because it's like, you've probably got friends that might be interested. And so if everybody tells one person, and, even if only 20% of those people that everybody told now listen, and then those people all tell one person, just think of it like a multi-level marketing scheme. Think of it like a pyramid scheme, except that you're not going to lose any money. You're just going to be helping me. So everybody tell one person that they think might be interested in the show to check out the show. Like the podcast, like the thing. I don't know how many likes there are, but there doesn't look like there's that many, and we should have more likes on there. So like on the stuff. You can sign up to become a member, and you get cool emojis. That's true. Thank you, Pirate. For Mann shorts, I would say, just in general for the channel, make sure that you have on notifications. Make sure those are turned on, so we stay in your feed. Because listen, and don't get me wrong, I'm not somebody that's lost to the idea that notifications are annoying. I have them all turned off on my phone. But I think that you could turn them on YouTube and then just like turn YouTube off on your phone, so that it's not necessarily bothering you, but it's very helpful for us because it shows YouTube that you want the notifications, and then we'll stay in your feed. Savvy? Hit the bell. Cha-cha-ching. That'll be very, very helpful for us. And then, like I said, just telling people about the podcast. I'm sure all of you know somebody who might be interested in it. If you ever find yourself just chatting with people online and you see somebody say like, oh man, I wish there were a D&D podcast. Be like, hey, bardadvice, every Friday. And the audio comes out every Saturday. Whoa, and Chris just gifted memberships out. So thank you very much, Chris. That's very generous of you. Super cool. With the memberships. So now anybody with the membership, you guys and or gals have access to all the emojis and cool stuff. So what's the wait time in asking a question and getting a reply? Well, usually, let's see, as a DM, do you ever set things up in spite of what your players do? Because it's funny. Yeah, all the time. Oh man, the amount of times that I've just been like, yeah, no, this is here just strictly to to annoy you. It's the only reason. I think that the turnaround time's usually pretty good. I will say that, like, on another note of like what you can do to help is send in questions. Now, Chris does not need to know this because Chris is Captain Question. Everybody else though, send some stuff in. I did see one from Cheeto earlier today. So no worries from you. But hey, if you're out there, if you're listening to this, like this thing, send in questions. Should we put the thing up again? bardadvice@gmail.com. That's the thing. That's the place. Send them there. And while you're at it, send follow-ups. And speaking of follow-ups, let's do this follow-up because I'd like to discuss this briefly before we get into a little bit of chat. So this follow-up is from Pete. I think that I had it marked as Peter, but then I noticed that you signed the email Pete. So we're going to go with Pete. But this is just kind of a follow-up from him. And here we go. Pete says, my youngest son and I enjoy the channel, but have been skipping the podcast, to our loss. Thank you for reminding me that the rule books are just a guide. It's not easy DMing for a young teenager. I can't imagine these days. Also, love the idea of running the DMPC that he isn't sure he can trust, or using the DMPC as an emotional MacGuffin to drive the story, or running my DMPC as just a hireling. Well, thank you for following up, Pete. I'm glad that you got something from this thing. You know, that's my thing. Everybody should just know, too, like, for me, if you're getting any kind of enjoyment out of this, that's my goal at the end of the day. So that's why I keep doing it. I enjoy doing it. You guys make it really fun. In the Discord as well. I don't know if we've shared that already or if we did maybe at the top, but I think I've got I guess the link that I put in the description is like expired. So we make sure that links for those go into the chat in case anybody's interested in joining the Discord. But yeah, the rule books definitely are just a guide. You know, I think that can be, I can't speak to what it's like to be a parent. I'm sure it's incredibly stressful. So, it's good to know that, like, you have your own agency when it comes to how you play the game. And so we go back to like Gygax's quote about, you know, the trick is that we can't let the dungeon masters know that they don't need the rules. And so the other thing too, I think of it is like, I remember when I first started like performing on stage when I was a kid. And I remember one of the first things that I learned in like, because I went to like a theater camp when I was like 7 or 8, something like that, I think, when I was in Oklahoma. And one of the first things that I learned is that it's like, as a performer, if you mess up, don't let them know that you messed up, right? Like, they might know anyway, but they'll definitely know if you stop and like, act like, if you make them aware of the fact that you just made a mistake, they'll know for sure that you made a mistake. A lot of times you can just afford to just kind of keep going. And that's, I think, kind of what it is with D&D, right? Where it's like, people care about raw, I guess, to an extent. Rules is written, but it's like, at the end of the day, the goal is to enjoy the game. Did you enjoy the game? Did you have fun? Because that matters way more than whether or not you followed the rules correctly or, in a specific way. So as just kind of a guide, that's great. And yeah, also the DMPC, not knowing if you could trust the DMPC, that's real fun. That's kind of worked out. Not even with a DMPC, but with a PC. But wait, there's a rule book. 42 likes, the universe and everything. Oh yeah, 42. That's a good one. Man, and I can't believe we're already in episode 60 of the show. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, and I don't even know how I'm going to get back to where I need to be on the go live. Oh, wait, do I just go there? Oh, no. Oh, no. Is this like going to start a new thing? Or is this the old thing? Oh, cool. Look at this. I made it back. Man, just an hour of confusion, and we've circled all the way back around. And here I am in the room where I normally am, and I could totally see the likes and the chat and everything that I'm supposed to. So that's good. Well, we're officially in in the chat portion of the evening. So, welcome back. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I didn't go anywhere, but not usually up this late to see the show. Well, that's fine. I'm glad that you're here. And, you know, the VODs are always available, but chat is in full effect. What's the deal? What's everybody's good thing of the week? My good thing of the week, I guess, is that the week went by fast. I don't know. No, I don't know. Probably the dice, because I got all the dice in. It's pretty cool. Got a bunch of the dice. Let's see. Rules don't equal limitations. Saw a quick interview with Patrick Rothfuss, DMing's youngest child. Instead of killing the mobs, he worked on puzzle making and other ways of progressing the quest and critical thinking. That's cool. How much is improv and how much is planning? You mean in general, like with D&D? Well, for DMs, it's probably kind of half and half. Because the thing is, like, right, the question that Derek asked earlier, even when you have a plan, it's all a roll of the dice. So it's all just kind of, who knows how it's going to go. You released your music. That's awesome. Got a channel. Valentine's Day. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, they sure did. Boy, howdy. Yes, and definitely prayers for any of the victims, people that were affected by the horrible tragedy in the Chiefs victory parade. It's just, you know, it's becoming a really... It's becoming numb. I'm becoming numb to it, which I don't like. It's really sad and disheartening when the other day I just like searched NFL news. That's what I Googled was NFL news, and all it was about the shooting. And then later in the afternoon, I Googled, I was looking up something about Wyoming. So I did News Wyoming, and there was a shooting there. And it's just like, you know. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answers are, but something, maybe. Got your tax refund back. That's good. Went on a date with the wife for the first time since your son was born. Oh, well, that's good. You had night shifts. Probably getting a Quest 3. You plan on improving. That's awesome. Yeah, planned improv. That's a good one. Bad news on top of bad news. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. But I hope that, you know, that goes as well as it can for you. It's tough. Man, chat is like, football is mad. Yeah, it's okay. I like basketball the most. Which, by the way, hey, that's, speaking of basketball, it's All-Star Weekend. That'll be fun. 355 million reasons today. Best thing about the week is it's now the weekend. Yeah, most definitely. The weekend is upon us. Although, you know, that doesn't mean as much to me, I guess, because I work the weekend. I usually work both days. Rules don't equal limitations. They create challenges. Don't use carrying capacity. Basketball, but you don't have to dribble. Yeah, I use carrying capacity for sure. I keep track of that stuff. It's important. Dice are coming. That is good news. It's officially baseball season. Ugh. Oh boy, howdy. Baseball is boring town. Sorry. I'm sorry. Oh man, I think I would rather watch literally anything but baseball. I just never got it. What's this week? Jay's debate. It's melee versus range. That's what we're doing this weekend. And then after that, I don't know. We've got to shoot more of them next week, and I don't know where we're going. Jay's wife mentioned 5e versus 3-5, so that might be coming soon. But then there's some other ones that I want to do, too. I think I kind of want to do Rogue Ranger. That may be really fun. Yes, feel free to email bardadvice@gmail.com. Oldest son's birthday Saturday. Can't believe it'll be 21. Whoa. Long weekend for us. Found a job after much looking, and it's very close, so that's good. Awesome. That is good. Nothing like starting a new job. Get some money coming in. It's always good. I was never a reader when I was younger, but I just got into it. That's cool. I should read more. Whoa, look at all these suggestions. This is great. Wizards, Clerics, Arcane versus... Oh, man, hold on. Look at this. I'm gonna screen cap this real quick. That's great. There's like a bunch of recommendations right there. Just save that in there. Potions versus Spells. Paladin versus Warlock. Arcane versus Divine I like a lot. Let's see. Yeah, melee versus range is what we're doing Sunday. You should continue with the winner. Keep going until there's one that beats the winner. What you think about the realm when the dead die? They can't leave the plane and are stuck as ghosts. So all the dead people are just ghosts hanging out. Giving advice. Secrets. Whoa, that's cool. I'll tell you what, that'd be a real cool place to visit. Official setting versus homebrew. Yeah, we talked about that too. Sork versus Wizard. JK, it's Wizard. I don't know, man. Sork's there's something to be said about spontaneous. Old rule spells versus new. Yeah. I think it might also be fun to do like actual spells. You know, like that's tough. But I mean, I guess it's all, you know, it's all part of the bit too. So for whatever the argument is, like maybe it's like something like Fireball versus like Sleep. And it's just like Chromatic versus Metallic Dragons. Yeah, no doubt. Why wouldn't they leave the plane? No one wants to be on a haunted plane. Best sci-fi TTRPG? I have not played many. D20 Future's really fun. Just Barbarian versus Ranger. Barbarian versus Rogue. Yeah, and by the way, too, I was thinking that we might also do, like, rematches. So, you know, as we develop it, because, like, I imagine, like, the rules will change and stuff as we do it, and we'll add things to it, and it'll kind of evolve. So, in that... you know, I'm sure we'll get a chance to do like rematches or just like, and then also like rotate other people in, right? Like I think it'd be fun to do. I talked about like how fun it would be to do like a 2-on-2. It'd be chaos, but that'd be fun. Yeah, I think all of those are great. Great recommendations. Thank you, chat. Gee whiz. That's definitely stuff for us to think about. Alrighty. Well, can't believe that we're here right at the end already. Look, we're knocking on the door. So, man, that was weird stuff, chat, about like me losing my studio, but here I am. I just went back right into it, so I guess that's good. All right, so before we get out of here, we like to remind everybody again of the email address, which of course is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Send all your questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques. Send them over there. If you want to get merch, you can get that at manshorts.com. I will keep everybody up to date as to what's going on with the dice. As I said, they'll be coming out on the 22nd, which will be next Thursday. And so if you also want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, YAHZICK. We will be back here same week. We will be back here next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and a better week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.